Pierre's gone. If Pierre can't win this election,
You think he's
and it's not a minority either. Pierre has to win a majority because in a minority, nobody will partner with them.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to work with him because he's like, it's like he went to a pool party and he actively chose to pee in the pool and tell everybody he peed in the pool. Nobody wants to swim with him right now.
It's like creating a weird purple cloud behind him.
Yeah, you know that lie about they say where there's dye in the pool? He brought the dye with him to like mark his territory.
Yeah.
This is where I have peed. Nobody work with me, please.
Yeah.
And we can already see the Conservatives, the knives have come out.
Yeah.
So
who do you think's replacing him?
It depends. So Jason Kenney immediately was like, this is my future for Conservatives. Like, didn't even let Pierre's polling numbers go down before he started doing that, because he smelled blood in the water. And that's the thing, when people smell blood in the water, like Chrystia Freeland, right, turned on Trudeau, it just sucks for her that people associated her brand with Trudeau, and there was no chance for her. But there's blood in the water, and Doug's team is obviously sniffing at it.
Doug's team is.
Right, because
you think Doug Ford would replace Pierre? So
Doug's campaign manager and Doug's pollster, Nick Kuvalis, have definitely been hinting at the idea that Conservatives need to become progressive Conservatives again. So there's a large fight in the Conservative Party between the ideological wing that runs Alberta and Saskatchewan and BC and the ideological wing of Ontario, Quebec, and the Atlantics. And it comes down to progressive Conservatives versus Reform.
Which, can you just explain that very briefly? I know we're getting to the end of the episode here, so sorry if it didn't make sense when we were talking this whole time.
If you were not alive in the 90s, or you were very young in the 90s, you might not know.
I was a baby.
Yeah, before the Conservative Party of Canada, we had the Progressive Conservatives under Brian Mulroney, and then that collapsed under Kim Campbell, and that broke apart, and we had the Canadian Alliance.
This is why they can't let women lead things.
Oh yeah, that glass ceiling, right? They just you gotta throw women under the bus and then prevent them from ever running again.
Yeah, and
that's
they create the worst political party. That's
that's the maniacal. Like it really does suck that it's true. Like that. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But there was the Canadian Alliance and there was the Reform Party, and one side of that was like, we're going to be more progressive, and the other side of that was, let's be as angry as we can.
Yeah,
and
but progressive in the sense of like it was like truly fiscally conservative, more like socially
neutral, I would say. They weren't gonna like cheer for trans people to be doing whatever, but like they would never have attacked the LGBTQ community in any way, right? So like that's like with Doug, right? Doug in the literal sense might be homophobic if you look at his family's history, but Doug is not in the like colloquial sense homophobic. He will never do anything to attack the queer community. Even when you saw there was a moment where he started talking about trans kids in sports, he immediately stopped talking about it. Even though the politics weren't going against him, it's not even like it was like politically unadvantageous. It's just like, that's not the brand of a progressive conservative. A progressive conservative focuses on the economy. That's all they focus on. And there are so many people who vote for the Liberals who would vote for a progressive conservative party. And I think that there's a value in having that. And so if Doug was to take over the Conservative Party, because the other person who's running is Melissalantsman, and she's basically Pierre, but like she won't get the vote as much because she's a gay woman, and there's gonna be a lot of conservatives who just aren't gonna support that, which sucks. But like, that's who your base is,
right?
And like, she
so
also
you're saying that it'll depend on which direction the Conservative Party wants to go, and who will end up replacing them after
Conservative voters, please elect Doug Ford as the next leader of the Conservative Party. It will get rid of him out of Ontario, and it'll make my life better.
I love it.
It has nothing to do with the federal part. I just want Doug Ford out of Ontario. but honestly, he would have the best chance of winning, I think, because without somebody who's a little more politically central.
I like that.
And Jason Kenney, I think, is trying to do that, but Jason Kenney is way too associated with Harper and the craziness out of Alberta.
Yeah. Alberta.